The Federal Trade Commission has fined Genshin Impact $20 million for targeting minors with in-game purchases without parental consent. To quote this directly from the FTC, they say, Genshin Impact deceived children, teens, and other players into spending hundreds of dollars on prizes they stood little chance of winning. Companies that deploy these dark pattern tactics will be held accountable if they deceive players, particularly kids and teens, about the true cost of in-game transactions. This is directly quoted from Samuel Levine, the director of the FTC's Bureau of Consumer Protection. If the FTC has fined the biggest gacha game in the world, Genshin Impact, does that mean that every other gacha game will fall, including Wuthering Waves? We need to talk about the implications of this fine, Hoyoverse's response to the news, as well as what gacha games need to do to protect themselves in the future. Or better yet, should these gacha games even be protected? My name is Void Enigma, and this fine actually speaks to higher volumes, as we as in-game consumers should be worried because this could be the start of something big. So, just to give some perspective, the FTC has absolutely no knowledge of how Genshin Impact or any gacha game works, and if they did, they would not be admitting to it. What I mean is that they are not aware that you can enjoy these games free to play, and $100 in-game is equivalent to maybe 1 month of constant grinding in-game for at least 4 hours a day to scrap every currency to get your next hot waifu. What the FTC sees, however, is that children are buying top-ups using their parents' credit cards, and the sheer amount of money being thrown at these games as a result for one character, and the ambiguous practices of a few concepts, is gigantic. Does this game inform you of your in-game gambling? Does this game tell you how much you are going to be spending for said character? And does this game have rules of minors topping up in-game? To answer all of those questions, no, no, and no. The main concern from the FTC is how predatory these gacha games are. It's unfortunate for Genshin Impact, but when you stand at the top, you have a giant target on your back. Despite these concerns, you can and should enjoy gacha games for free. You can very easily do so, but you won't be able to get everything that you want. With that being said, the price for the in-game characters is astronomically bad. I want you guys to go out to someone who you know, who doesn't know anything about gaming or gacha mechanics in general, and explain to them that the cost of an in-game character in these games can reach heights of $400. Yeah. When you put it that way, the order makes perfect sense. Of course, this is blatantly blown out of proportion, but there is some truth to the matter. The price for these gacha game characters is absurdly high. The bigger issue is that the game, in essence, is a kid's game. I can't even try to save Genshin Impact, because they decided to make their game accessible to the most amount of people as possible, so they're a glorified game for kids. There is a psychological factor to these games, however, and Genshin Impact has a lead team of manipulators to make you spend money on their game. That is a fact. The entire concept of a 50-50 is to make you feel the dreaded FOMO, and make you pull for characters. You are meant to feel like absolute shit when you pull and fail to get the 5-star that you wanted, and got a Chi-Chi instead. Are you going to give up and not get that character, or are you going to maybe go to the top-up center on your mother's iPad, grab the highest cost bundle that you can, and then buy that $100 top-up for your character? And not just one, but maybe you spend $200 or $300. As absurd as that sounds, this is a very common occurrence for parents who let their children play games on their phones and devices. It's not necessarily the parents' fault the first time that it happens, but it is up to the parents to figure out how it happened, and they're normally able to avoid the outcome in the future. Parents don't expect their kids to be able to use their devices to buy thousands of dollars of Primo Gems without the need of a passcode or PIN, right? We've all heard of someone doing this. I actually have an in-game experience like this, where I have a phone plan, and on that phone plan, you can top up in-game and charge it to your phone bill. Lucky me to notice a $200 bill attached to my normal phone bill plan. Turns out, someone on my phone plan had their daughter use their phone to purchase $200 worth of goods on a game called Talking Angela, and charge it to their cell phone company. Yeah. I was able to get it reversed via customer service, but it's not always that easy, especially if it keeps happening. This had nothing to do with me, but I was actually facing the repercussions of it, and it can be as simple as that. Just because of how accessible these companies make topping up. You can do it a million different ways, and that just makes it even worse. There are many arguments about parents not guiding their children, And yes, there is some truth to the matter. However, why are you defending a billion-dollar corporation when you can make these changes available so that the players and parents are aware of these tactics in order for you to top up? Let me just reiterate something for you. Despite whatever perfect world you live in, where you read the fine print of every aspect that appears in your feed, and you read the entire terms of service of every app that you use, ensuring that you aren't being swindled, 99% of people do not do that. You should be reading everything that you interact with, but it's a glorified fact that people are stupid. They don't have the time to read everything, and people are bound to make mistakes, and that is normal. It is okay to be a little dumb and not read over a few things because you expect to have faith in the company to not try to scam you in the process. How many mistakes have you made by not reading the fine print on something? Whether it's a coupon or a deal or an offer that you see online, it happens to everyone, and it is the company's greed that fuels people to make these mistakes. They know what they're doing, and they set it up so you do make these mistakes. It's that simple. It is up to you as the consumer to actually read through the fine print to make sure that you aren't falling victim to any of these tactics. These companies are allowed to do that because, yeah, they do tell you, although it's hidden the way that they tell you. But what's not okay, though, is using that fact to trick people into spending way more than they are aware of. And that is where the next factor comes into play: ambiguity. For those of you who have topped up in-game before, answer me this question. How much does a premium character cost in a gacha game of your choice? An exact number. You see the issue? You can't even tell me an exact number for how much you're going to be spending on this particular character. The cost of these characters range heavily because buying a character in-game is essentially gambling. My results will be vastly different from your results. You could have lost your 50-50 odds of getting the character in-game, while the other person over there is winning their 50-50 odds at 20 pity each time. When you throw money into this is the equivalent of gambling. If I spend $50, I might get the character, but if I spend $100, then I have a better chance of getting the character. Okay, I'll get the 100. I may as well just guarantee the character, and I don't want to actually lose the top-up because there's a bonus attached to getting the 100, which is less than the bonus that you get with the 50. So this is definitely the best option. Oh, what the hell? I got it in my first pull. It's always a guessing game for how much premium currency you need to pull the character. This is another note from the FTC's order to Genshin Impact. I feel that the prices should definitely be more transparent for all gacha games, and things should be regulated, because people are addicted to pulling characters. Like, seriously. They are addicted to pulling and spending money on gacha games. Because of this addiction, they can make mistakes and overspend way too much. Having clear instructions and pricing would help with that, especially if you're able to visually see it. Why does the concept of Genesis crystals exist? Like, maybe you should be buying pulls instead of you actually grabbing a calculator and calculating exactly how much pulls you're going to need to do these things. And that might not even matter because you just end up getting hard pity or losing the 50-50. All this means, however, is that Genshin Impact will just basically skip the whole Genesis crystal process maybe, and instead add an option to just buy Primo Gems instead, or simply have paid Primo Gems and free Primo Gems. That's honestly all that's actually going to change as far as transparency, and that would still technically be quote-unquote legal. Now, Genshin Impact was quick to respond. While fixing Dia is something that Genshin Impact will never admit or change to, they definitely responded to the news in earnest. I'll read the translated version. Animation-style games and shows are well received by global audiences and players across various ages. Genshin Impact is a popular free-to-play anime-style game designed for older teens and adults. While we believe many of the FTC's allegations are inaccurate, we agree to the settlement because we value the trust in our community and share a commitment to transparency for our players. Under the agreement, we will introduce new age-gated and parental consent protection for children and young teens and increase our in-game disclosures about virtual currency and rewards for players in the US in the coming months. In other words, screw you guys, here's your hush money, sweep us under the rug, we'll make the changes and continue to make billions. Billions. Just this year, they made $4 billion. Just so you're aware, $20 million to $4 million is 0.5%. That's the equivalent of having $100 and being fined 50 cents. Honestly, that's hilarious. So what does this mean for Wuthering Waves and other gacha games? Is this the start of the takedown of all gacha mechanics in these games? Wuthering has been the most generous gacha game that I've ever played, but of course, they're still a gacha game. They do lack transparency, and minors could just as easily spend money on these games without their parents knowing. The fact that the 50-50 odds for the character banner still exist is actually kind of a bad thing, but they definitely took a step up with making their weapon banners being guaranteed, so that's a step in the right direction. What I hope is that this is a wake-up call for all gacha game developers and they will change their game for the better. The manipulation at hand of 99% of gacha games is abysmal. When you have kids playing these games who are susceptible to those gambling tactics, that's when those predatory methods become grooming. You're molding kids who don't know any better into being gambling addicts, and that is a sad truth. It's already bad enough that I, as a responsible adult, is a partial gambling addict. So imagine how easy it is to manipulate children. It's not always the company's fault, as the parents should know what their kids are actually doing online, but it goes without saying that the companies should make their utmost effort to ensure that the available quote-unquote top-up option is transparent and visible. My thoughts, however, is that this will end with Genshin Impact, at least until the next big game hits the market. To be honest, I wonder how many events players will actually miss out on with the crumbs that have been taken from Hoyo vs Piggy Bank. Let me know what you all think in the comments though. Is this fine justified, or is the FTC just blowing things out of proportions? Should there be ways for actually parents to not be charged thousands of dollars for Primo Gems? Or is it just the parents' fault for not knowing what their kids are doing online? Go ahead and subscribe if you enjoy this content, leave a like, and thank you for watching. This has been Void Enigma, and until next time, Enigma out.